Chapter 14. Section 3. Formations above the chalk. The flat maritime district extending on the south side of the Downs, from Emsworth and Bracklesham to Brighton, is composed of various deposits of clay, sand, and brick earth, reposing upon the chalk. Accumulations of similar materials enclosing water-worn blocks of sandstone and boulders of a coarse ferruginous breccia occur also at Falmer, Lewis, Piddinghoe, Newhaven, and Chimpton Castle. These are evidently the ruins of strata that formerly existed above the chalk, and were probably of considerable thickness, extent, and variety. The class of deposits to which these belong were but imperfectly known till the researches of Messrs. Cuvier and Brongniart in the environs of Paris. The publication of their masterly delineation of the géographie minéralogique of that district excited universal attention, and attached to the investigation of these strata a high degree of interest and importance. The inquiry was pursued with equal zeal and success in our own country by Mr. Webster, who discovered in London, Hampshire, and the Isle of Wight a series of beds corresponding in their characters and geological position with those of the neighbourhood of Paris. Insular portions of these strata have subsequently been noticed in numerous localities of the English chalk, and the facts already known are sufficient to warrant the conclusion that they were formerly as extensive in this island as on the continent. To enable geologists to identify the English formations with those of other countries, Professor Buckland has constructed a tabular arrangement, which is admirably adapted to facilitate the acquirement of a correct knowledge of their geological relations. As this table will materially elucidate the nature of the tertiary deposits of Sussex, and has hitherto appeared only in a periodical work, we shall subjoin that part of it which relates to the present subject. A tabular arrangement of the rocks that occur in England, with their equivalents in certain districts on the continent, by the Reverend William Buckland, Professor of Mineralogy and Geology in the University of Oxford, FRS, etc. Note: in this table, Professor Buckland commences with the uppermost or newest deposits, a method directly the reverse of that which has been adopted in the present volume. Alluvium, English formations. Effect of causes now in action. Mud of rivers, deltas, gravel of torrents. Formations on the continent. Effect of causes now in action, same as in England, but on a larger scale. Diluvium, English formations. The effect of causes no longer in existence. Gravel and rolled blocks, both on hills and in valleys, not produced by any causes now in action. Gravel of the valleys of the Thames, Severn, and Humber. Blocks of Cumberland granite in the plain of Shropshire, near Bridgenorth, and of Galway granite at Shock, on the southwest of Carlisle in Cumberland. Formations on the continent. The effects of causes no longer in existence. Same as in England, superficial gravel covering the regular tertiary strata of the valleys of the Po, the Danube, and Geneva. Granite blocks on the Jura above Neufchâtel and on the Salève mountain near Geneva. Tertiary formations. English formations. London and Hampshire basins. 1. Freshwater limestone, Hedon Cliff, Isle of Wight. 2. London clay, Highgate Hill, London. With plants and marine fish, Isle of Sheppey. 3. Plastic clay formation, clay, marl, sand, and gravel, with marine shells. Basins of London, Hants, and Dorset. 4. Pudding stone of Hertfordshire, Druid sandstone blocks of Buckinghamshire, Wilts, Dorset, and Sussex. 5. Lignite and glance coal, imperfect wood coal, Alum Bay, Isle of Wight, Corfe clay pits, Isle of Purbeck. Formations on the continent, Basin of Paris, valleys of the Po, the Danube, and Switzerland. 1. Calcaire d'eau douce. Basin of Paris, Freynisberg near Bernis. Saint Sapharin near Vevey, Horgen near Zurich, Locle on the Jura, Valley of the Rhine, 3 miles northeast of Basle. These are principally composed of marl stone and contain beds of coal with freshwater shells intermixed. Euningen near Schaffhausen with freshwater fish. 2. Calcaire grossier of Paris. Verona, Vicentine Hills, and Monte Berici in the valley of the Po. Loreto, southeast of Vienna, in the basin of the Danube. Tour de Molière, east of Yverdun, in Switzerland, with plants and marine fish. Monte Bolca near Verona. Solenhofen near Pappenheim, probably. Fish of Mount Lebanon, probably. 3. Plastic clay formation, beds of clay, marl, sand, and gravel, with marine shells, Basin of Paris. All the edges of the plains of Lombardy, near Parma, Placenza, Asti, Turin, Vicenza, Valley of the Danube, Valley of Geneva and Constance. 4. Nagelfluh of Switzerland, Como and Salzburg. Pudding stone of Riga near Lucerne, and of Bregenz of Lake Constance. 5. Lignite and glance coal, perfect and used for fuel. Monte Bolca and Arzignari in the Vicentino, Fussen in Bavaria, Tittmoning, Teisendorf, Miesbach, and all the coal pits in the valley of the Danube above Vienna. Marburg in Styria, Leoben in Styria. It is not implied that the above 5 subdivisional parts of the tertiary formations maintain the same relative order of succession in England and on the continent. Most of them probably alternate, but they are all more recent than the chalk of England, France, and Italy. Secondary formations. English formations. Chalk, large proportion of the southeast of England. green sand. Large proportion of the southeast of England. Formations on the continent, chalk, cray of the French, encircling and forming the base of the basin of Paris. Younger alpine limestone of the Euganean and Vincentian hills in Italy. Fort near Lunenburg, close to the town on the side of Hamburg. Castle of Krakow in Poland. Cray inferieur of the French. Calder sandstein and planar calc of Werner, younger alpine limestone of Savoy, forming the summit of the high ridge from Mount Varens in the vale of the Arve of Diablerets in the Rhône valley. In the preceding arrangement, the excavations or hollows in the chalk containing the tertiary formations are termed basins, and these are farther distinguished by the names of their principal localities. Thus we have the Paris, London, and Isle of Wight basins. The two last mentioned comprehend the whole of the tertiary beds that have been noticed in England. According to the plan of the present work, the alluvial and diluvial beds will be hereafter described. The freshwater limestone does not occur in this county. The Druid sandstone, plastic clay, and London clay are therefore the only members of the series that come under examination in this section. The Druid sandstone occurs in the form of boulders, promiscuously scattered over the surface, or embedded in diluvial deposits. The plastic and London clay occupy a considerable extent of country, and form the low maritime district of the southwestern part of Sussex. These beds are supposed by Mr. Webster to have belonged to the Isle of Wight basin. To obtain a clear idea of their geological relations, it will therefore be necessary to take a brief view of the extent and characters of that celebrated depression of the chalk. The district comprehended by the Isle of Wight basin is about 100 miles in length, and at its greatest breadth does not exceed 20 miles. The southern side is formed by the highly inclined chalk, extending from the Culver Cliffs at the east end of the Isle of Wight to White Nose in Dorsetshire, 5 miles west of Lulworth, the north side by the South Downs, that pass from Beachy Head to Dorchester in Dorsetshire. The strata of which these hills are composed dip generally from 15 degrees to 5 degrees to the south, the inclination varying in different places. The south side of the basin must therefore have been extremely steep, while the slope of the north side was very gentle. The western margin cannot be distinctly traced, and the eastern is now entirely destroyed, the sea flowing through the opening. The strata contained in the Hampshire or Isle of Wight basin form 5 principal divisions, that is, 1. Lowest marine formation over the chalk, including the plastic clay and sand, together with the London clay. 2. Lowest freshwater formation. 3. Upper marine formation. 4. Upper freshwater formation. 5. Alluvium. The annexed sketch will illustrate this description and show the connection between the outlying fragments of these beds in Sussex and those of the Isle of Wight. The remains of the tertiary formations that occur in Sussex admit of the following arrangement. It must, however, be remarked that from the ruin and displacement to which they have been exposed, it is scarcely possible in every instance accurately to determine their geological positions. Tertiary formations in Sussex. 1. Druid sandstone. Boulders of siliceous sandstone, sometimes enveloping pebbles and forming a breccia resembling that of Herefordshire, scattered over the surface of the downs, near Falmer, Brighton, Lewes, etc. 2. Plastic clay. Beds of clay, marl, sand, etc., resembling those of Woolwich. Castle Hill, near Newhaven, Chimpting Castle, etc. 3. London clay. Blue clay containing shells. Bracklamsham in the Isle of Selsey. Greenish-grey sandstone. Bognor rocks, Barn rocks, between Selsey and Bognor. Hoongate and Street rocks, west of Selsey. Has hitherto appeared only in a periodical work. Annals of Philosophy, June 1821, page 462. Green sand. Professor Buckland continues this arrangement down to the greywacke of the Transition series. The sea flowing through the opening. Mr. Webster on the strata overlaying the chalk, Geological Transactions, Volume 2, page 170, et seq.